My background is my dad's a lawyer, my mum's a tennis player, so brought up in South Africa and played tennis to international standards. So I realised after a while that the pivot that I was effectively halfway between my dad, the barrister, and my mum, the sports player, as a sports lawyer to a degree, and that's where I guess the passion intersects. It's a while back now. I did my law degree 1999, 2002, masters 2003, law school around 2004. Started my training contract 2005 to 2007 at a firm called Jones Day. Moved on qualification in 2007. The idea is I wanted to try and match my sort of competition law experience and desire to do some competition work with the sense that I wanted to develop a bit more of a sports law practice, and really specifically it was more football law related topics that caught my attention, that I did quite a lot of in my master's dissertation, and I started writing about after that. So I did a sports master's research with Mark James in Manchester on competition law and football broadcasting rights. So I spent the best part of a year, about 10 months, researching into the 1999 Premier League case on collective and exclusive broadcasting, on the monopolies and mergers ruling into the failed B-Sky B takeover of Man United, and the TV Denmark case that was to do with listing of events. So all to do with terrestrial television and the ability of UEFA and FIFA to be able to sell those rights only to terrestrial broadcasters throughout Europe. So it's a mixture. I mean, I started off more on the broadcasting side because that's where my expertise was, and that's where the intersect was between football and broadcasting in a way. Sorry, football, broadcasting, and then competition law. So in the beginning, there was quite a lot of advice we were doing on TV broadcasting rights, the selling of those rights, the tendering of the Premier League contracts, how the listing of events worked, so that terrestrial broadcasters were effectively the only broadcasters that could bid for the listed events like the Olympics, Paralympics aren't on Olympics, but Euro Championships and World Cup, for example. And then one day, actually quite soon into my training contract, completely fortuitously, I got a call about 6 o'clock on a Friday evening from the head of the corporate team saying, got a new piece of work in, we need to refinance some football debt for an outstanding client, and you need to explain to a group of 14 bankers how the Premier League works and how it distributes its income. So it was only really because I had an idea of the football regulations anyway. I understood how, the Premier League distributed its rights through the TV deals and some of its regulations, that I began to realise actually there was quite a big opportunity for me to go into the regulatory side of things as well as the broadcasting side. And so since then, I've advised clubs, selling clubs, buying clubs, owners of clubs, and players as well on the different regulations that apply to them. So the owners, for example, is the fit and proper person test, which is now the owners and directors test, on conflicts of interest, and a lot more topically over the last couple of years is financial fair play. We can make a disclaimer for the video that you did send through some questions earlier, so I was prepped a little bit, and I spent about 20 minutes racking my brains thinking, I've got lots of cases, but I don't know. And I went backwards and forwards with a few, and I ended up realising that the one that had most impact on me, at least anyway, was the one that I'd written the most about, yet it took me about an hour or whatever it was to work out what it was. And I think that's, at least specifically for me anyway, the Murphy and the QC Leisure broadcasting cases. And for those that don't know that much about it, I'm sure most will. It's about a small publican called Mrs. Murphy in Portsmouth importing legitimate, or rather authorised, decoder cards from another member state because they're cheaper than the UK equivalent. And then what happened as a result? And if I say that these cases, or I read an article by David Conn during my master's degree program on this particular topic. So that's how far it's been going back. It's almost a decade now since that case has been going. And the interesting thing now is that we're getting to the stage where, although the domestic deal has now been set and BT and Sky have the rights for next year, it's yet to be seen what the Premier League will do, how it will package its rights for the overseas European markets. I mean, the rumour has it that actually they're only going to market one 3 p.m. game on a Saturday afternoon. So whereas before all of these different broadcasters could have a choice of different games and a number of games, if only one 3 p.m. game is going to be possible and allowable, and potentially in that domestic language, I guess one of the issues may be they are trying to limit the attractiveness of that product being brought over into the UK market at what still probably will be a reduced price. And then there's also this distinction between the consumer being able to go to a pub and watch it, and the consumer as a private viewer watching it in their own home. And that's what the Court of Justice was speaking a lot about, but that's for another day as well. I can't underplay the value, and it's an easy thing to say, of hard work. If people think you want to get into any field and just get by, you'll be mistaken. But specifically sports law, simply because so many people are passionate about sport and whatever specific sport they are, and think they can merge those two things together and somehow you'll feel more fulfilled about your job. And a lot of the time, it's great, but sometimes, no one expects to go to work every day of their life and be completely in love with what they do. When you're at least thinking about doing a training contract or involved in a training contract, what you actually need to do first is get your practice area, be it property, commercial, IP, corporate, regulatory, whatever it is that interests you, personal injury, whatever it is, that needs to be your anchor, your basis. And then once you've found that, you are then able to probably delve into the niche sports topics of that particular anchor department practice area. And once you do that, and you're able to read, write, understand, articulate the type of things that you are then can get more involved in, that's when you start to begin to add value in your practice area, and specifically in sports. Enthusiasm, because you're going to get knocked back all the time. I mean, it's true. Like, if I say, when I did my master's degree, I phoned, I emailed people. I went, even when I was doing my training contract applications for all the sports firms that I thought would be enamoured to want me as an employee, all the rejection letters, all of the articles that don't get published for whatever reason, all of the setbacks, does one of two things: either confirms your worst insecurity that you're not good enough and you decide against it, or it builds your strength of character and your belief to think, I feel I'm good enough, but this is what I need to work on and improve.
Brilliant. Well, Daniel, thanks for taking the time out to speak to us. Thanks a lot.
Pleasure.